Hardeep Singh Puri and Jeffrey Epstein. One is a former diplomat, BJP leader, and a sitting cabinet minister in the Narendra Modi government. The other is an American financier, pedophile, and convicted sex offender. What were the links between these two men? Was it just a professional relationship, as Hardeep Puri is now saying, or was it much more than that? That is a question which is growing louder by the day as email exchanges between Hardeep Singh Puri and Epstein have come to light thanks to the Epstein files. Released by the US Department of Justice, the Epstein files is a huge set of photos, videos, communication that is making waves globally. In a nutshell, it shows powerful people hanging out, partying, meeting and exchanging mails with Jeffrey Epstein. So from President Donald Trump to former US President Bill Clinton, Microsoft founder Bill Gates, several other names have emerged in the Epstein files in the last couple of months. Many influential people have been forced to quit their respective positions as well, following their exchanges that have come to light with a convicted sex offender. In India too, the latest tranche released last week has led to calls of accountability. Rahul Gandhi raised, or at least tried to raise, the mention of Hardeep Singh Puri and industrialist Anil Ambani in the Epstein files. And mind you, this is not just a mere mention. In both Hardeep Puri and Anil Ambani's case, there are email exchanges of these individuals with Jeffrey Epstein that prove that they were in touch with the sex offender at some point in time. The opposition has demanded Hardeep Singh Puri's resignation, calling him out for his association or his exchanges with Jeffrey Epstein.
As a representative of the government of India, how and why was he sending a mail to Epstein, a sex offender, a criminal? And before that, between 2014 and 16, by what authority, under whose instructions, under what authority was he interacting with Epstein? He was a nobody. Mr. Hardeep Puri was a retired diplomat, full stop. We had 3 ambassadors between 2014 and 16 to the US. One was S. Jaishankar, the other was Arun Singh, and the third was Navtej Sarna. Were they so useless that the Prime Minister needed Hardeep Puri's services to interact with Epstein? Why?
But the minister has shot back as well. He first gave a press conference on the 11th of February where some of his responses raised more questions than answers. And throughout yesterday, he gave full-fledged interviews to Indian news channels defending or justifying his emailed exchanges with Jeffrey Epstein. So what do we know so far about the Epstein-Hardeep Puri link? Hello and welcome, I'm Shubham Chauhan. Let's get started. 430. That's the number of documents in the Epstein files involving Union Minister Hardeep Singh Puri. The Epstein files are there for everyone to see. It's in public domain on the website of the US Department of Justice. They have a separate column for the Epstein files. The latest tranche of Epstein files was released by the DOJ last week, and it's also the largest so far. More than 3 million pages of documents were released in the latest tranche of the Epstein files. If you just run a search on the Epstein files set on the DOJ website and just type Hardeep, 430 results show up that basically capture the minister's communication with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, on the face of it, the mails are largely about setting up meetings and following up on them. But if you dig deep, some more details come to light on not just what was discussed in these communication, but possibly the equation that Hardeep Puri and Jeffrey Epstein had. Now, before we show up some of the emails and communication for you on the screen, here are some points to keep in mind. Hardeep Singh Puri is a diplomat turned politician. He retired from the Indian Foreign Service, the IFS, in February 2013 and joined the BJP in January 2014. In 2017, he was made Minister of State with an independent charge for housing and urban affairs in the Modi government. Since 2021, he's the petroleum minister. As for Epstein, until his horrifying crimes came to light, for the world, he was an investor and a power broker in the political circles of USA. Now, let's look at some of the email exchanges between Hardeep Puri and Jeffrey Epstein. These are dated between 2014 and 2017. Among the first exchanges is this one from June 2014. That is 1 month after Prime Minister Modi came to power. Hardeep Puri too, like I said, was part of the BJP by then. The mail shows Jeffrey Epstein listing out a guest list for a gathering at his residence in New York. The names include former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak and Hardeep Singh Puri. Epstein sends this mail to former US Treasury Secretary Lawrence Summers, asking him to join in as well. Then, a couple of weeks later, Epstein wrote to Hardeep Puri saying he spoke to Turjay and Reid Hoffman is ready to come to India. To this, Puri responded saying he would be happy to assist / facilitate this visit. Now, Terje Rod Larson was the chief of the International Peace Institute then. In his press conference on 11th Feb, Hardeep Puri claimed he first came in contact with Epstein through Terje because Hardeep Puri too was part of this institute. And Hoffman, on the other hand, who's the other man mentioned in the Epstein mail, is the co-founder of LinkedIn. Then on September 24, 2014, Epstein introduced Hardeep Puri to Reid Hoffman. Weeks later, Hoffman acknowledged his meetings with Hardeep Puri, saying Epstein has exquisite taste in people. In November, Hardeep Puri sent a long mail to both Epstein and Hoffman, pitching for investments in India's internet sector. Now let's move on to Hardeep Singh Puri and Epstein specifically. Before we show you the emails, listen in to what Hardeep Puri had to say in his defense following the allegations and following his name that came up in the Epstein files.
My boss in the IPI, Mr. Terje Rod Larson, was the person who knew this particular infamous person, Mr. Epstein. And it is as part of a delegation of the IPI or the ICM that I met Mr. Epstein on a few occasions, 3 or maximum 4. He was a very prominent member of New York society. Half the world that interacted with him had no clue to his past. Okay?
Now, essentially, the minister is dismissive about his meetings with Epstein, saying he met him as part of a delegation, a professional delegation, and nothing more. But his emails suggest otherwise. Documents show that Puri met Epstein in February 2015, Jan 2016, and May 2017. All these meetings were held at Epstein's personal residence in New York. One meeting, which is dated 9th January 2015, it was cancelled as Jeffrey Epstein's assistant said that Epstein will no longer be in New York. In January 2017, Puri sought time from Epstein as he wanted to drop by and give a copy of his book. That's not it. A few email exchanges between Hardeep Puri and Epstein have also raised questions on whether this was just a professional relationship between the two or was it something more. In a December 2014 message, Puri asked Epstein when he would return from his exotic island, the same island where Jeffrey Epstein sexually abused underage girls. In his defense, Hardeep Puri said he was merely referring to Epstein's island and the usage of the word exotic in his message was just casual. That is what his argument is. Epstein, in response to Puri's mail, said he spoke to Reid Hoffman, to which Puri replied, "Give me a shout when you are back and have fun. Not that you require encouragement from others for that." And it doesn't end here. In October 2014, Epstein wrote to former diplomat Hardeep Puri seeking help for a visa for his assistant who had to attend a wedding in India. To this, Hardeep Puri requested Pramod Bajaj, a former Indian consulate in New York, an ambassador to South Korea, to see if he could have this done on a priority basis. The last correspondence between Puri and Epstein seems to be in 2017. But here's the thing. Why was Hardeep Puri communicating with Epstein in the first place? Wasn't he aware of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes? Because here's the thing. In 2008, Jeffrey Epstein was convicted on charges of procuring a minor for prostitution in Florida. Until his arrest in 2019 and subsequent death, there were multiple allegations against Jeffrey Epstein that he was involved in sex trafficking and sexually abusing minors. In his press conference on the 11th of February, Hardeep Puri said he wasn't aware of the full history of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes at the time, and it was his work that demanded meeting shady characters.
If your answer is, in 2008 in 2008 he pled guilty, yes, for a charge that he was soliciting the favors of a woman who was underage. That was it. The rest of these stories got to be known much later. But believe me, many of us had doubts on that. That's why people like us left. We have to deal with people in our lifetimes. You know, I was a young first secretary in Colombo. And I was sent to negotiate with a man called Velupillai Prabhakaran, who was the LTT chief. Okay? Just because I was negotiating with Prabhakaran, who's the LTT chief and who was later, alleged to be LTT's killed or, was responsible for the death of assassination of our Prime Minister. Does that make me, because I'm talking to a terrorist, does that make me share the terrorist values?
But isn't there a world of a difference between an example like Prabhakaran, whom Puri met because the government, the Indian government asked him to, and meeting a convicted sex offender 6 years after his conviction? It's not about whether Hardeep Puri committed the kind of crimes that Epstein did. That is not the question that we are raising here. What we are raising is more of a moral question. Whether you are part of a delegation or you're meeting him in personal capacity, should a respected diplomat have made that choice of meeting a man like Jeffrey Epstein the number of times he actually did? As for Hardeep Puri, he has maintained that he's not part of any sort of wrongdoing. That's all we have for this report. Thanks for watching.